Hi everybody, it's Miss Mac again, and welcome to our Reader's Workshop mini lesson for Thursday, April 2nd, 2020. Today, we will be reviewing text structures using westward expansion. Our goal for today is to review text structure. Authors vary their text structure when presenting information to their readers. There are 5 main structures used in nonfiction. So if we look over here, we have description, we have sequence, we have compare and contrast, we have cause and effect, and we have problem and solution. This chart will be up on the Reader's Workshop work tab for today to help you when you're independently reading and completing the activity for today. So we'll go back to our slide, and we're going to use these text structures to help us create main ideas and summarize what we've been reading. If you remember, we did this a lot in Unit 2 when we started our nonfiction unit way back at the beginning of the year. So let's try a few together. And as we practice identifying text structures, we're going to keep these strategies in mind. First, we will chunk our reading into sections. Second, we will pause after each section to think what information is the author telling us, and how does that fit into a text structure. And third, we will use the text structure in the information to help us formulate multiple main ideas. Now, I've also placed on the Reader's Workshop work tab for today a read aloud, where I read the split history of westward expansion. In that text and in that read aloud, you will see me chunk my sections, pause to think about what I've read, and help me to create main ideas. So if you haven't seen that read aloud yet, I want you to stop watching this slideshow and go to that one and watch that first. Okay, so let's practice. I'm going to read an article, The California Gold Rush. And I'm going to start with the first paragraph. That will be my first chunk. The year was 1848. John A. Sutter was building a new sawmill in Coloma, near Sacramento, California. The area was mostly wilderness. He never expected the treasure that the unexplored land held. In January 1848, the chief builder of the sawmill found Sutter one rainy afternoon. The chief made him lock all of the doors to his office. Then, in a secret voice, the chief told Sutter about a discovery that would change the entire west coast of the United States. He had discovered gold in the stream near the sawmill. So if I go back to my chart, sorry, had a little technical snafu right there. If I go back to my chart and I look at the different structures that I have in front of me and think about what the author was telling me. Now, the author was telling me that there was John Sutter. He worked in a sawmill. His boss came out and told him that he found gold. And then all of a sudden, that finding gold was going to change everything. So if I look at my text structures, I know it's definitely not sequence because I didn't see first, next, then last. I didn't see compare and contrast because I didn't see anything that was being compared. I didn't see two topics and see if they were similar or see if they were different. And I really didn't see a problem. Finding gold is really not a problem. What I did see was now that finding gold was going to change everything. That means something's going to happen. So that first paragraph is written in a cause and effect text structure. So a main idea that I could think of right now that maybe the author is trying to tell me is that maybe the finding of gold changed the way life was known, or the way the life was. Let's see if I'm right. Moving on. Sutter asked all of his workers to keep the news a secret for just 6 weeks, but it was hopeless. The news spread like wildfire. Everyone wanted some gold. The American West was advertised all over as a land full of promise and wealth. Soon, accounts of gold were greatly exaggerated. In early 1849, the editor of the New York Tribune wrote, "Fortune lies upon the surface of the earth as plentiful as the mud in our streets." People had gold fever. Okay, so I'm going to stop at that chunk and I'm going to think about what I've just read. The boss asked Sutter to keep the news of his finding gold a secret, but that didn't work. The secret got out and it spread like wildfire, so everybody knew about it. And pretty soon, everyone had gold fever and they were moving to the West. So does that fit with what I previously read? Yeah, it does connect. Could it fit with the text structure of cause and effect? I would say so. Because the secret got out, everybody had gold fever and started to move west. So could I still continue using the main idea that finding gold changed life how it was? Yeah, I would say so. Let's move on. Tens of thousands of men traveled to the West Coast to seek their fortune. These men were nicknamed 49ers. Have you heard the song, "Oh My Darling Clementine"? That folk song is about miners who came west. High in his hopes, one man called California a land of glittering dreams. So once again, I'm going to stop and think about what I've read. Tens of thousands of men traveled to the West Coast. I know that's a very large number, so it must mean a lot of people. They were nicknamed 49ers, and they created songs to tell the story about that point in history. So can I still continue to say it's a cause and effect? I would agree, yes. And does it fit with my main idea from before on how finding gold changed the way life used to be? Yes. So if I continue to read and stop and chunk, I will see how the other parts of the article continue to connect to that cause and effect text structure. And then at the end, I will be able to say that one of the main ideas the author was trying to tell me, that finding gold changed the way life was for the people who lived in that territory. Some for the good and some for the bad. Let's try another article. This one is the Oregon Trail. Go west, young man. Have you ever wondered how everyone spread out across this country from the original 13 colonies? During the period of westward expansion, many settlers traveled across the same 2,000-mile trail to the west. The Oregon Trail stretched from Missouri to Oregon. The journey took 4 to 6 months. Covered wagons were loaded with food and supplies. There was little room for more than 1 or 2 people to ride, so most of the pioneers had to walk the whole way, sometimes without shoes. Can you imagine walking all the way across the United States and barefoot? Okay, just take a moment, think to yourself, what is the paragraph telling you, and what text structure could it be? Okay, so we're thinking about what text structure this first paragraph could be, so let's go back to our charts. We have description, we have sequence, compare and contrast, cause and effect, problem and solution. So if I go back to the text and look at what it's telling me, I'm looking at who traveled, where did they travel, how did they travel, when did they travel, So at this point, if you said that this first paragraph was written in a description structure, I would agree with you. It's telling you features and examples about the trail. Let's move on to see if that idea continues. The trip was very challenging. Crossing rivers was extremely dangerous. Often parts of the wagon would break. Some people died from sickness or fatigue or even bad weather. A disease called cholera was an especially big problem. They did not know how to treat the disease successfully at the time. Once someone showed the slightest symptom of illness, he or she could die within a few hours. After a while, the grass alongside the trail started to disappear. Too many horses and cows had been grazing in the same spot from all of the traffic. The later pioneers had trouble finding food for their livestock. Okay, take a moment, pause the slideshow, and think, what text structure could it be? If you said problem and solution, you're right. There was a clue word in that paragraph, and the clue word was problem. A disease called cholera was especially a big problem. So this whole article was telling me about how people died from sickness, fatigue, or bad weather. They gave examples of the cholera problem. They didn't know how to treat it. That seems like a solution. They also gave another problem on the grass alongside the trail started to disappear. So their livestock had no food to eat. So I would agree this is a problem and solution paragraph. So let's stop to think. What could be a main idea that the author's trying to tell me? One possible main idea is that the pioneers traveling on this trail faced many hardships. Because if I look back to that first paragraph, it says the journey took 4 to 6 months. And they had to walk the whole way, sometimes without shoes. That could be a hardship. Also, other evidence to support that main idea is that they were dying of sicknesses that they couldn't control or cure, and that they were running out of food for their livestock. Last paragraph. The covered wagons traveled in long trains or caravans for safety. At night, the settlers would gather their caravan into a big circle. In the middle of the circle, they would build a campfire, eat, and sleep. This is really too small to be in a structure, but we can still say it supports the hardships faced along the way. Because as they travel, they covered their wagons, I guess, because the hardship or problem was bad weather. And then it says they traveled in caravans for safety, which means that there were problems with their safety along the route. So, now I want you to go on to the independent part of our lesson. And what you'll do is you'll go on the Google assignment that's located in the Reader's Workshop work tab for Thursday, April 2nd. And you're going to use the same strategies that I used in these slides and the read aloud. And if you haven't visited that read aloud yet, please do so. It's very informative. And after, I want you to go out to our share wall, just like I had you do the other day, and put a Post-it note answering the question that's on the share wall. There'll be a link on your Google document. So this is your Google document assignment. It's called Text Structures Assignment. And you'll see that I have connected a book for you. It's the Westward Expansion book on TrueFlix. I've given you an example of the chart that I want you to fill out. And I used the California Gold Rush article from before, so you can read my examples. Down here, this is where you get to say your own work, where I stopped, what's the author trying to tell me, and what's a possible text structure. And then at the end, what are some possible main ideas for chapters 1 through 3? I only want you to read chapters 1, 2, and 3 today. We'll focus on other chapters on Friday. Any questions, please email me, and have a great day.